These are more unbiblical beliefs about disability that need to be left in 2025. We need to leave behind the belief that Christianity is ableist, specifically that praying for physical healing is somehow ableist. It's not. No, it's not. If you're a Christian, we are absolutely directed to pray in all circumstances for all things. That includes praying for healing. That includes praying for your disability. Maybe praying for a cure. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing ableist about that. On the other hand, I hear a lot of people saying that it's ableist for Christians to believe that you can be healed with enough faith. To that, you need to understand that is not Christian teaching. Is that belief ableist? Sure. But that belief is not Christian. That belief is this heretical idea of manifesting that is pervasive in these prosperity, health, wealth, or NAR type churches, but it's most certainly not biblical. We need to leave behind the idea that God's throne is a wheelchair. And I know you're probably listening to that and thinking, seriously, who believes that? Yeah, you'd be surprised. It is actually very fundamental in disability theology to imagine God in a wheelchair or impaired by the cross. It is a foundational belief that particularly Jesus necessarily must identify with the disabled. And it's completely unbiblical. There's no evidence for that. It comes from the Old Testament, the vision of Ezekiel, where he describes God's throne as having wheels on it. That is supposed to be in reference to a chariot, not a wheelchair. Wheelchairs didn't even exist when Ezekiel had that vision. So no, that needs to go. And on the same note, we need to leave behind this idea that Jesus is disabled and resurrected in a disabled body. Absolute heretical nonsense. Jesus was crucified and resurrected. Here's the thing. This belief that Jesus resurrected in a disabled body, Jesus shows his crucifixion wounds to Thomas, the apostle, as evidence that he is the resurrected Christ. Why are we taking that one verse and extrapolating that into an entire theology that is honestly just postmodern social justice garbage? It's not a thing. It needs to go. Leave it in 2025. We need to leave behind this idea that the gospel is primarily about inclusion, specifically disability inclusion. It's not. In fact, I'll take it a step further. We need to leave behind the idea that the gospel is about anything other than salvation. That's it. It is only about Jesus dying and rising for the atonement of our souls, our salvation, to be reconciled with God. That's it. It's not about feeling included. It's not about belonging to a community. Because here's the thing. You don't necessarily need Jesus to belong with a community. So when we make the gospel about anything other than Jesus, we cannot make the gospel about anything other than Christ himself and his salvation. This one is going to sound wild, but I promise you, there are people who believe this. We need to leave behind the idea that Jesus asked for consent to heal people in the New Testament. No, Jesus is God. He does not need anybody's permission to heal. Not even the person who's being healed. He does not have to have their permission. Now, when Jesus asks, do you want to be healed? We need to read that in its full context. Sometimes it's just part of the conversation. Sometimes it's more of a rhetorical question, asking that person to reflect and think, do they truly want to be healed? Or maybe it's a question of, do you want to be healed more than just physically? Kind of like Jesus' conversation with the woman at the well about water, and he says that he is living water. What if when Jesus asks, do you want to be healed? It's sort of along the same lines in asking that person, do you want the spiritual healing that only Christ can offer? But what do you think? Let me know what you think of this list. Do you want more of my unbiblical beliefs that we need to leave in 2025? What would you add to this list? What other unbiblical beliefs or ideas about disability do you want to see left in 2025? Comment.